Welcome back, college football fans, to the Play Action Pod. My name is Brennan. Beside me is my co-host, Braque. And if you watch our previous episodes on YouTube, you're probably wondering, where are you guys? Because you're used to that boring little white background. But, shout out to X Golf Riverton in Utah for letting us come out and, use their bar for our episodes. I mean, it's a beautiful place. If you haven't been here, you should check it out if you live in the area. There's golf simulators. They're playing all the games. There's drinks, bar food, everything. It's just the place to be, especially on the weekends. This is where we come and watch the games. So definitely check it out. It's in Riverton, Utah. So shout out to X Golf. But anyways, we're here to bring, I believe it's our 27th, 28th episode. I'm not sure. I kind of lost track, but it is conference championship weekend. We will be attending the Pac-12 championship game in Vegas this weekend, making the trip down south from where we live in Salt Lake to watch Utah take on USC. That'll be a game that we cover. Obviously, we're going to cover all 5 Power 5 conference championship games. I don't think we're going to really talk about the Tulane UCF. You think it's worth our time? Or
Nah, sorry guys.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think you're making the episode.
Yeah. But they will be making a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yes.
Because the winner of that will, they take the highest ranked, what is it?
Group of 5?
Highest ranked group of 5. That's right. Yeah, it was escaping me. But anyways, I think we'll kick this episode off by, just a brief analysis of what we were seeing Tuesday night as far as the new top 10.
Yeah, these rankings, they were interesting. I think this is, the closest we've gotten to kind of like the best, college football playoff rankings this year. The top 4 obviously stayed the same besides, Ohio State dropping out and USC jumping in. There's definitely an argument for Michigan to jump over Georgia with the win over Ohio State, probably, the best win in the FBS this year. But I'm okay with, it staying 1-2. I think Georgia's done a, very good job of being the number 1 team in the nation for, 12 straight weeks, besides the week that Tennessee was. And I think it's deserved that Georgia stays number 1, Michigan number 2. And then, obviously TCU stays or jumps up to 3 with Ohio State dropping out. And then, USC down at 4. So nothing to complain with, the top 4. I think there was some arguments about Tennessee over or under Alabama. I would agree, Tennessee beat them head to head. I think that, we both agree that Tennessee should be over them, but the committee obviously, feels that Tennessee's not a better team than Alabama anymore without Hendon Hooker, which is unfortunate because I think, these rankings should be based on what we have seen so far. And, that's a prediction of what they think. So, that's a little bit unfortunate, but other than that, yeah, I think these rankings, I think they're great. I think, for the most part, every team that is going to be playing this weekend, has a shot to at least compete for something, maybe a New Year's Six Bowl or even the playoffs. So
yeah, and we'll cover all of the scenarios on at least our predictions of where we think teams will land, based on the outcomes of the games this weekend.
Yeah.
But to kick things off, we'll start with the Friday night game. University of Utah against USC. They get the rematch. USC's last championship appearance was in 2020 against Oregon. I guess that was the COVID year.
COVID year, yep.
Yeah, COVID year. And I think Oregon won that, correct?
They did, yes. Even though they weren't supposed to be in that game. It was supposed to be Washington, but Washington's team got a COVID outbreak. So Oregon replaced them.
Oh, so Oregon replaced Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
But USC was supposed to be in that game.
Yeah, USC was supposed to be in that game, yeah.
But they lost either way. So, but that was the last time USC was in the Pac-12 championship. And the Utes, this is the 4th championship appearance in the last 5 years. Kind of a big deal for Kyle Whittingham and that program there to be able to, backdoor their way into the championship this year. There was a lot of things that had to go down last Saturday for them to make the appearance, but it worked out their way, and they'll be playing, in Allegiant this weekend. Utah obviously won the regular season matchup 43-42 on the 2-point conversion earlier this year in Rice Eccles, Salt Lake City, Utah. But, do you think Utah should still make the Rose Bowl with a loss in this game?
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation that, I've had a lot of conversations about should teams be punished for playing, that 13th game, that bonus game. And, you look at the case of, even USC, like USC right now, they think is better than Ohio State. USC plays this weekend, Ohio State does not. Should USC, be negatively affected? Should they lose that game? Should they be bumped out of the playoff having played an extra game? I think it's the same with Utah. Utah is currently 11 and Washington is currently 12. So if Utah were to lose, the committee already thinks Utah is better than Washington. So Utah should get the Rose Bowl invite, even knowing they're going to pick up a potential fourth loss to USC. So overall, it's an interesting little dynamic, but I personally don't think that they should. I think that's a little unfair to punish a team for playing an extra game.
So you don't think they should make the Rose Bowl?
I don't think they should not make the Rose Bowl.
Should be excluded from the Rose Bowl. Interesting.
I think they should be included because,
Do you think they will?
I don't think they will. I think if Utah doesn't win the conference, I think they will be moved for University of Washington, which, I think fair play. I think Washington's had a great season. I think they would do great in that Rose Bowl. But, right now they're saying a 3-loss Utah is better than a 2-loss Washington. I don't think that should change with Utah being, forced to play the extra game while Washington is sitting at home.
That caught me off guard when the rankings came out. We both had, I think, Washington at 8.
Yeah, we had them
at least in the top 10.
Yeah.
So to see them, below a 2-loss or a 3-loss Utah, that was just puzzling to me.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the committee making a statement saying that they believe that Utah at 3 losses is better than Washington.
Yep.
But, the other question for this game is, should USC still make the playoff with a loss?
Yeah, and, I kind of talked about it a little bit a second ago, right? This is a situation we haven't really had before. Usually, teams in the 5 and 6, maybe even the 7 spot are playing in their conference championship game, and they're playing to get in to the playoff. Well, in this case, the top 4 is all playing for their conference, and 5 and 6 aren't playing for their conference. So I think that the playoff should be set right now, personally.
With these top 4?
I think this should be the top 4 because I don't think any of these 4 teams should be punished for playing the extra game when Ohio State and Alabama are both sitting at home.
Yeah.
And maybe it is unfair, but, right now they looked at USC at 11-1 and they looked at Ohio State at 11-1 and they said USC is a better team than Ohio State. So I think why should that change if USC loses again, this weekend? So yeah. I think the playoffs should be set personally, but I see the argument for if USC loses this week and gets that second loss, why Ohio State should go over them. But I personally think that the playoffs should be set.
But Ohio State, sitting at home is an advantage for them, if they do get in.
Yeah.
So, being excluded from their conference championship game in the long run could help them out. But, we totally got sidetracked. We're trying to stick with the Pac-12 championship. But, yeah, a lot of good information. But, do you think the Utes will be able to, get 2 wins against Caleb Williams and this USC team who's been rolling past their opponents these past few weeks?
Yeah, I know there was an interesting stat last year that it was, in the Pac-12, I believe it was like 5 out of the 6 times that a team has met twice in the regular season and, the conference championship. The team that won the first meeting also won the second meeting.
What was it again?
5 out of 6 times.
Oh, wow.
So there's only one instance where the team that won the first meeting lost in the conference championship. So, Utah obviously won the first meeting. They won the first meeting last year against Oregon and then proceeded to beat them in the conference championship game again. So definitely an interesting little thing, but it's a completely different game this time around. Obviously USC and Caleb Williams are hitting on all cylinders right now. That offense is probably, the best we've seen, maybe even the best offense, in the FBS this year. You could definitely argue that. But I think the thing that is different about this game is Utah's defense. I think the defense that played against USC the first time was, a little bit shaky. They didn't necessarily know kind of where they needed to be. And they just came off a performance where they gave up 500 plus yards to UCLA. So I think the defense for Utah is going to be a very big, talking point in this game. And I think if they have a good game and can slow down this USC offense, because you can't stop them.
Yeah.
But you can definitely slow them down. So if they can slow down this offense, and then Cam Rising and their offense can, take advantage of those opportunities, I think Utah has a big chance to be successful this weekend.
The difference is this game isn't in Rice Eccles. We've
Definitely
seen this Utah team struggle away from home. I know that Utah fans do travel well. I mean, obviously, we're going.
Yep.
And we are known to be some Utah fans. So, I mean, yeah, they will travel. But, it'd be interesting to see how many USC fans actually, turn out.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they've been hiding. They've been in hiding, maybe since back to the Reggie Bush years.
Yeah.
Maybe not that far back, but, USC, keep in mind, I know I brought this up about 3 times. This is a 4-win team last year.
Yep.
I mean, the sport has changed so much. Lincoln Riley able to get 19 transfers. 19 transfers?
Something like that. Yeah, it was a big
19
number.
transfers. I mean, that is almost 2. I mean, that's almost 2 starting line of scrimmage.
Yep.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, that just goes to show, how much the game is changing. And, I'm sure that he'll reload next year when some of his guys leave as well.
Mm.
But USC coming off a 4-win season last year, and now they're competing to be top 4 in the country, which I mean is unbelievable. But I'm gonna go for prediction. I'm gonna go with USC.
Okay.
I think that Utah, they have struggled away from home this season. We've seen all 3 losses on the road.
Mm.
And I know that there's going to be a lot of Utah fans there in Vegas. But, it's just something about Rice Eccles. I think it's shown how good this team is at home. And the way USC has been playing recently, I think they're much better than what we saw mid-October. So I think that, USC is prepared to, they know who they need to stop. It's obviously going to be Dalton Kincaid. They did it last week with Michael Mayer. We always get it mixed up, but Michael Mayer, I believe his name is, big tight end for Notre Dame. They were successful last week, and I see them being successful this week as well.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with USC. I picked USC back in October to win that game in Salt Lake. They obviously just came a point short. I just think that, they have so much to play for right now. Utah obviously has a lot to play for as well. They want to play for the Rose Bowl. That'd be a big achievement, winning the conference back-to-back years and then playing for the Rose Bowl. But Lincoln Riley has been a playoff caliber coach. He's taken Oklahoma to the playoffs many, many times. So he knows what it takes to be there. He knows what it takes to win a conference. I think he's going to have USC ready this weekend. And I think they're just going to be a little bit better on the day than Utah. They'll probably win on probably a last-second drive, I would assume. So I'm also going to pick USC to win this game.
And better, yeah. And, sports bettors out there, keep an eye on that line because I know it's been moving around. I think it opened up at 3.5. It got down to 1 for USC, and now I think it's sitting at 2.5 as of, this is Wednesday night when we're recording. But, if it's sitting at 2.5, you pick USC to cover because, if they win by that field goal, then they do cover. But if it's at 3.5, then do you have Utah covered? Because then if they win on a game-winning field goal, then they wouldn't cover. That's kind of it's kind of similar to the situation earlier this year when the game was in Rice Eccles. I think it was 2.5 point favorite for Utah, but they didn't end up covering because they won by, it was 1, right?
1 point.
They won by 1 point. So, I mean, they didn't cover, but, just keep that in mind, sports bettors. But, I'm assuming that if USC wins, it would bring us a highly anticipated matchup versus Georgia. Mm-hmm. in the playoff for the first round. So, something to keep an eye out for Friday night because it's gonna be crazy. By Friday night, we're gonna know, who's in basically from that. I guess that would be the 4th spot. But anyways, let's move to Saturday. Big 12 championship. Earliest game is gonna be 12. It'll be noon Eastern time on ABC. Kansas State, TCU. TCU, their last conference championship appearance was in 2017 against Oklahoma. And Kansas State, their last championship appearance was in 2003, also against Oklahoma. But, I mean, a decade and a half apart. So, I mean, Kansas State making an appearance for, the first time since 15 years. TCU, they won the regular season matchup 38-28, and I believe that was at Kansas State.
I believe so too.
If I'm correct. So I mean, that's been their marquee win all season so far. But you think TCU should still make the playoff if they lose this game?
Yeah, I think as long as TCU doesn't get blown out, if they happen to lose a close one to Kansas State, I think they still get in. You know, they'd have more wins than Ohio State. They'd have the same number of losses, and you know, Ohio State has a better win with it being over, you know, top 10 Penn State, but they would have also a top 10 win over Kansas State, and they'd have, you know, a couple other, you know, top 25 wins as well. So I think TCU is basically a lock as long as they don't get just blown out this weekend. I think TCU is a lock for the playoff.
I think they deserve to get in, but unfortunately, I think that the committee they've been rubbing their hands waiting for this TCU team to lose a football game all season, and it hasn't happened yet. You know, TCU, they've scraped by some victories, but I mean, they get it done in the long run. We saw it in that last regular season game against Baylor with the kicker running out for the last second field goal to win that game. But I mean, they've won every single game this season, and you know, it's impossible to exclude an undefeated, you know, Power 5 team.
Yep.
But for some reason, I just have a feeling that if they lose, I feel like they would put Ohio State at 4, which is interesting because if TCU wins, and assuming that Georgia and Michigan win, they'll be at 3. But if they lose, then Ohio State will probably go to, well, from my prediction, I feel like the committee would sneak Ohio State in the 4th spot just because I think that they think that the matchup between Ohio State and Georgia in the playoff would be more intriguing. And I think that they think fans would want to see that matchup more. We were talking about it on the ride over here. It was like, if the line opened for TCU versus Georgia, it'd probably be Georgia by 14. But, you know, Georgia, Ohio State, it'd probably be around, you know, maybe that 7 to 10 range is kind of what we decided on. But, you know, I definitely 100% think that TCU deserves to get in. But I think it will be interesting to see on Sunday, you know, what team they go with. And I would not be surprised if it's Ohio State personally.
Yeah. I've just always looked at it as, you know, I think Georgia, no matter what happens this weekend, is a lock. Michigan, no matter what happens this weekend, is a lock. And I think as long as TCU doesn't get blown out, I would say they're a lock as well. They'd be 12-1. They'd have a win over the only team they've lost to. I just think it'd be way too hard to not put them in. And I think it'd be really, really harsh on the committee to do so.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I just have that gut feeling that they might do that. But, you know, for Kansas State, you know, what bowl game do they get in if they win this game?
I think Kansas State's going to the Sugar Bowl no matter what.
No matter what?
Yeah, I think they've locked it in. They're going to be playing Alabama most likely in the Sugar Bowl. I think there's a possibility that for some reason Tennessee would jump Alabama, but I don't know why they would do that. So yeah. I think it's going to be Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Actually, I guess if LSU wins the SEC, then it'd be LSU in the Sugar Bowl. So,
yeah, that is interesting.
So either LSU or Alabama for Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. Yeah,
it would most likely be Alabama, you know, depending on what goes down in the SEC championship. But let's just do a prediction.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to go with TCU. You know, I've been hit or miss on TCU. I think I've seen them play really complete football games, and I think Max Duggan has led them to really complete football games. But I've also seen like some weaknesses in their team as well that's made me question, you know, are they a top 4 team? But I think over the last couple of weeks, they've won some really gritty, tough games. So for me, TCU is a top 4 team. I think it won't matter. I think they'll win this weekend, and they'll be 13-0. No doubt in the committee's mind that they got to be in that playoff.
And then give them the, you know, kind of the momentum they need going into a highly anticipated matchup, which would probably be Michigan, is what I'm assuming.
Yep.
Being that 2 and 3 seed. I'm going to go with TCU as well. You know, we've been critical of them all year, and so has the committee of them playing the closer games, which, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. You know, that they've gotten it done all season, and, you know, Max Duggan has had a monster season, but yeah, I'm going to go with TCU, and then that just solidifies their spot in the playoff. They just have too much to play for, And when a team Kansas State, they could be dangerous, They don't really have much to lose. They could just go out there and try to, get revenge from that regular season loss and try to, mix things up for TCU. But I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs winning that one. Kind of boring start for us. We both picked the favorites to, kick things off. But, that's just really how we feel so far. Next one, SEC Championship, LSU, Georgia. It'll be 4 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. I believe this is Georgia's 5th championship appearance in the last 6 years. So, they're used to this stage. They've been here very frequently in recent years. LSU, their last championship appearance was in 2019 versus Georgia. That was, the Joe Burrow era, and they definitely took care of business in that one, 37-10 in the SEC championship in 2019. But, Georgia, they're a lock regardless of the outcome of this game. But, what does this mean for LSU?
Yeah, like I said, they're still playing for potentially a Sugar Bowl bid. If they win the SEC, then they can go to the Sugar Bowl and play, the Big 12 champion or whoever gets selected from the Big 12, which, like you said, would probably be Kansas State.
Yeah.
So, yeah, LSU is a weird one. They were kind of sitting at 2 losses at number 5, and people thought that they had a long shot to maybe even sneak into the playoff. And, then they had that poor game against Texas A&M, and, kind of puts them in the position they are now. They're not really playing for too much, just trying to sneak into a New Year's 6. So it's been an interesting year for not only LSU, but the SEC in general. Usually this is a game with high playoff, implications. And, this year that's just not the case. So, it's going to be interesting. I think LSU will definitely want to still win the SEC in Brian Kelly's first year. I think that'd be a great achievement. So I think they're going to be, ready to play and try to give Georgia everything that they have.
Even to win that division in his first year in the SEC is very impressive for Brian Kelly. So, props to him. We had a lot of doubts for that team after they lost week 1 to Florida State on some of the weirdest football plays I've ever seen. That was one of the weirdest endings. Florida State's looking better these days, but still. But yeah, it's been a good first year for the coach there. But I got Georgia winning this. I got them winning big.
Yeah, I don't think we need to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, we really don't want to.
I know. We've all picked the favorites so far, but it just seems like that kind of weekend. I'm also going to go with Georgia. I think they do win big, and I think LSU really showed a lot of the weaknesses that they had last week. And
yeah,
I know. There's always the case of, well, you can have a bad week. Well, they've had 3 bad weeks, and they've all turned into losses.
That was more than a bad week.
Yeah. So
last week against it was A&M.
Yeah.
They're not even bowl eligible.
Yeah. So,
which is very disappointing. But yeah, I agree. They showed a lot of weakness, and they're pretty young, and first year for a coach, so they'll get the swing of things next year, and maybe they'll be competing for the playoff. But yeah, I like Georgia winning big on that one. So let's see. We got 2 more. Big Ten. 8 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. It's going to be Purdue and Michigan. Michigan's a lock regardless. We know that. And but for Purdue, first appearance in a Big Ten championship game ever, which is, cool to see. Unfortunately, they are unranked, so that'll be kind of, weird to see on the screen. Big Ten championship. I guess it'd be second-ranked Michigan playing an unranked Purdue. But is this just business as usual for Michigan?
I don't know, man. They got the Purdue spoiler makers over there.
The spoiler makers?
Yeah, so I saw that on Twitter.
Oh,
Someone
really?
called them the spoiler makers.
That's amazing.
And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, I think, Michigan, they played their Big Ten championship game last week. That was the game in Columbus against Ohio State. And that's not disrespect to Purdue at all. That's just kind of the level of, the teams in the Big Ten. It's Michigan, Ohio State, and it's Penn State. Those are the 3 teams that have really shown the most this season and kind of dominated, the Big Ten. So I think Michigan already played their Big Ten championship game. I think this is just going to be a tune-up game is what I would call it. They're just going to try to hopefully get players healthy, especially Blake Corum.
Yeah.
Get him healthy, get him ready for a playoff appearance, and just, try to get as many good reps as you can against Purdue. And then I think that should be enough for them to get the win this weekend. I'd be surprised if they have any trouble. So I think Michigan wins, and I think Michigan wins big. And, I think it's just a big step for Harbaugh too.
Yeah.
Because, not only does he have now 2 wins over Ohio State, but to get his second Big Ten championship and second playoff appearance, it really shows that he's building something special up in Michigan. So we'll see if this year he can turn it into more than just a playoff appearance and maybe into, a playoff win and maybe even a national championship appearance.
I mean, Michigan a couple weeks ago, I was very concerned. But, after their performance in Columbus, I am totally sold on this team, and I think the rest of the country should be as well. They exposed a very, very talented Ohio State team and, beat them in every single aspect. And the most surprising was J.J. McCarthy. He's someone that we didn't expect to ball out like he did against Ohio State. So, I bet he has a lot of confidence going into this game, and I like to see them win big here. Because, they like to let teams hang around for about 3.5 quarters. And, I like to see them put this away, maybe even through the first half and, get some confidence heading into, a playoff matchup. ACC championship, North Carolina against Clemson. We've known this matchup for about 2 or 3 weeks, I think. But, it's become less dramatic now that there's no more playoff implications. But, the winner of the game will be playing in the Orange Bowl. And Clemson, 7th championship appearance in the last 8 years. They are used to this big stage. And North Carolina, it's a little bit different. Their last championship appearance was in 2015 against Clemson, where they lost 45-37 in that ACC championship. But, I think we're just going to jump right into a quick prediction.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to talk about with this game. Obviously, no playoff implications. Winner goes to the Orange Bowl. That's kind of all there is to it. So I'm going to go with Clemson for this game. And I think the reason I'm going to go with Clemson is I just really like their front seven. I think their front seven is really talented. I think they got a lot of studs there. And I think they're going to be able to, kind of disrupt Drake during this game. And I think that's going to be a real key to Clemson's victory. This Saturday.
Interesting. Yeah. I think this is our first disagreement.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go with North Carolina. And the reason I'm going to go with North Carolina is because, this game means more to them than it does for Clemson. Because, Clemson, obviously competing for an ACC championship, it does mean a lot. But, it's kind of a disappointing year. Usually they're in that 4, 5, 6 spot fighting for a playoff spot. So for them to not make the playoff, I feel like they're disappointed. And, I don't think North Carolina's won an ACC championship. So, it would be a big deal for them to get one. So I think that since it means a lot more to North Carolina, I think they will get the win. And also Clemson not having a complete team, I would say. I feel like they're, missing that key piece at quarterback position. And North Carolina has them beat there. But that's the reason I got North Carolina. But those were the Power 5 championship games previewed for you guys. So keep an eye out for an episode this Sunday. I think it will be from Vegas is where we will be doing it. So it might be in a hotel room. We're going to bring all of our equipment and see if we can get an episode out for you guys there. But, it's been a busy week getting everything prepared for this episode. But another huge shout out to X Golf Riverton, our friends there. Thank you so much for, letting us come in here and, upgrading the studio a little bit. So we're excited to, announce that we're going to be doing all of our episodes here, except for, I guess, Sunday, doing it in Vegas. But, have a good weekend, you guys, and we'll see you soon.